Before there was Lionel Messi, another small diminutive forward had cemented himself as a legend in Barcelona's history. For nearly a century, he was Barcelona's greatest ever goalscorer, and to this day, he remains their youngest ever debutant. But for nearly a century, he was forgotten. Paulino Alcantara was born in Iloilo, a province of the Philippines, over 10,000 kilometers away from the club he would eventually achieve footballing greatness with. In 1896, Alcantara was born to a Spanish father and Filipino mother during the Spanish colonial rule of the Philippines. At the time, the Philippines was one of Spain's last colonies, and just 3 years after Alcantara was born, the Philippines would fight for its independence. This began in 1899, a year that would be crucial for Alcantara's future career. First, the war for independence would lead Alcantara's family to relocate to Barcelona, Spain. Second, in that same year, Joan Gamper would lead a group of multinational footballers to form a new footballing club, FC Barcelona. But it wouldn't be until 1912 that Gamper would spot Alcantara's footballing talent. While in Barcelona, Alcantara was studying medicine and used to play football in the courtyards of local hospitals with other students. It was during one of their matches that Gamper discovered the diminutive Filipino forward. Gamper swiftly signed him to the club, and just 1 week after signing, he would take the field for the first time. At 15 years, 4 months, and 18 days, Alcantara made his competitive debut for Barcelona. He scored a hat-trick of goals as Barcelona went on to win 9-0. During this match, Alcantara set a number of notable records. He set the record for the youngest player to score a hat-trick, which stood for over 8 decades, and to this day he remains Barcelona's youngest ever player and their youngest ever goal scorer. And that first match was just the appetizer for everything that was to come. Alcantara proved himself to be a prolific scorer for a Barcelona team, establishing themselves as one of the best sides in Spain. From the 1911-12 season through to the 1914-15 season, he scored an incredible 92 goals in 99 matches. But the record books are less favorable towards Alcantara in counting these goals. You see, at this time in the early period of footballing history, leagues and cups were not well established, so most footballing matches were played as friendlies or unofficial matches. This was common at the time. Many of the world's most competitive matches are now considered unofficial. Unfortunately for Alcantara, 76 of his goals during that period were scored in what are now considered as 77 unofficial matches. The history books only record him as scoring 16 goals in 22 official matches during this period, a still impressive but less remarkable total. But that isn't to say that Alcantara's official achievements during this time were not notable. He helped lead Barcelona to the 1913 Campionat de Catalunya title, known in English as the Catalan Football Championship. It was a major title, notable for being Spain's first domestic league prior to the establishment of La Liga. That same year, Barcelona were also crowned champions of Spain, with victory in the Copa del Rey, although Alcantara was unavailable for the final. But it was 2 seasons later, during the 1915-16 season, that Alcantara would establish himself during official matches. That season was a crucial one for Barcelona, as they had missed out on the last 2 Catalan football championships. They were looking to reclaim their status as the top of the league, and it was none other than our diminutive Filipino who would lead the way. 23 goals during the season would comfortably place Alcantara at the top of the scoring charts, as he was the star player for Barcelona as they reclaimed their league title. That season, in just 15 official matches, Alcantara scored a whopping 29 goals. He added another 12 in 14 unofficial matches, taking his total for the season to 41 goals in 29 matches. Alcantara had just had his best season ever. He was reaching the peak of his stardom, and he was proving himself as one of the world's best footballers. And then he would leave Barcelona. In 1916, Alcantara's family would return to the Philippines, where he would continue his studies in medicine. This is not to say, though, that he completely stopped playing football. In fact, Alcantara's return to the Philippines coincided with a golden period for Filipino football. He joined Bohemian Sporting Club, the dominant force in the Philippines at the time, and helped lead them to two Philippines national championships. He also represented the Philippines during the Far East Asian Championship Games in 1917, where he led the Philippines to an astounding 15-2 victory over Japan. To this day, that victory remains the Philippines' largest ever margin of victory in any match. But while Alcantara continued to thrive, Barcelona were floundering without their star man. They had failed to win a major trophy without him and were desperate for him to return to the club. They pleaded with his family to allow him to return to Barcelona and continue his playing career there. But despite wanting to return, his family preferred him to stay in the Philippines to continue his studies. Alcantara, though, was determined to go back to Barcelona and revive his footballing career. In 1917, after contracting malaria, he apparently refused to take his medication until he was allowed to return to Barcelona. His family, now forced to relent to his wishes, allowed Alcantara to leave the Philippines and continue his footballing career. While his return to Barcelona was widely celebrated, he did not make any immediate impact on the pitch. Jack Greenwell, the now manager of Barcelona, made the odd decision of experimenting with Alcantara in fullback positions. This nonsensical experiment led Alcantara playing 2 official matches and scoring no goals during the 1917-18 season. Barcelona finished in just 3rd place in the Catalan Football Championship. The club were furious with Greenwell's management and demanded that Alcantara be put back into the forward line. And once he returned to his correct position, the club and player prospered together again. Barcelona would go on to win 7 of the next 8 Catalan football championships, with Alcantara finishing as the league's top scorer in 4 of those seasons. They would also go on to win 4 more Copa del Rey titles, with Alcantara scoring 2 goals in the 1922 final and the winning goal over Atletico Madrid in the 1926 final. His accomplishments were becoming the stuff of legend, and even today it is difficult to know whether his footballing feats are fact or fiction. His shot was supposedly so powerful that it ripped holes through nets, and that once, when a police officer was standing in front of the goal, his shot was so powerful that both officer and ball ended up crossing the goal line. But what is known is that, in total, Paulino Alcantara won 10 Catalan football championships and 5 Copa del Reys in his Barcelona career. He was part of Barcelona's first golden generation, a small, diminutive forward leading the line among a host of Barcelona greats. From his debut through 1927, he scored 395 goals in 399 matches. Nobody would achieve this feat again for nearly 100 years. Then, on July 3, 1927, Alcantara retired from football. Already a legend of the club, Barcelona honored his retirement with a testimonial match against Spain. It was a huge celebration for a man whose career was revered by the Barcelona faithful, a star boy in the club's first golden period. But after his retirement, as time wore on and football evolved, the world forgot about Paulino Alcantara. In his home country of the Philippines, his footballing career became completely unknown. For nearly a century, Paulino Alcantara was lost to time, his career a footballing antiquity destined to be forgotten. There are likely numerous reasons for why Alcantara's career was lost for so long, but the biggest factor is simple. The Philippines just aren't that interested in football. In a nation where boxing and basketball reign supreme, the country's early footballing achievements fell by the wayside. As a result, nobody was paying attention to Alcantara's achievements, and after he retired, his career was forgotten about. Alcantara even wrote memoirs of his time in football after his career ended, but these memoirs too seemed to be lost to time. It wasn't until the early 2010s, nearly a century after his retirement, that the name Paulino Alcantara began resurfacing in the Philippines. A cultural footballing revival led to an introspective into the nation's footballing history, leading many to wonder how Alcantara's name was forgotten in the first place. His name took on even greater significance when, in 2014, over 100 years after his debut for the club, Lionel Messi finally broke the record Alcantara set nearly a century earlier of becoming Barcelona's greatest ever scorer. Worldwide recognition followed during this time. FIFA named Alcantara as one of the greatest forwards of all time and as Asia's greatest ever footballer. Additionally, Alcantara was featured in multiple FIFA games as a FIFA legend. Even still, the Philippines was relatively late at acknowledging one of their greatest ever sportsmen. It wasn't until 2018 that the domestic cup in the Philippines was renamed as Copa Paulino Alcantara in his honor. Then finally, in 2021, 109 years after a 15-year-old Filipino forward scored a hat-trick on his Barcelona debut, Alcantara was inducted into the Philippine Sports Hall of Fame. Football in the Philippines is steadily gaining traction, as victory in the Women's World Cup and a restructured domestic league look to pave a path forward for future Filipino footballers. Indeed, the beautiful game is just starting to get the recognition it deserves in Filipino sporting culture, and there are new clubs and players who will take the sport forward in this nation. But as our nation moves together towards this brighter footballing future, let's not forget about the diminutive forward with a powerful shot, who paved the way for the likes of Lionel Messi at one of the world's biggest clubs. He is one of our own, Paulino Alcantara, a footballing legend.